Hi, everyone. It's Ethan Detmeyer here with some combat radio from an undisclosed secret location somewhere on the East Coast. And in the middle of a hurricane is artist, puppet master John Kennedy. John, how are you?
Good, thanks. Hi, Ethan. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm going to apologize out of the gate. We may lose you because you told us you're living in kind of storm conditions and it may cut the power suddenly. But
Well,
until
every
then,
day here in Florida, you get your storms, so we usually get socked with a couple of lightning bolts, and sometimes the power goes out. So sorry if that happens.
I want to talk about Dr. Teeth, probably the coolest character in the Muppet arsenal, right? I mean, and when you pass Dr. Teeth down or any Muppet character down, it's like handing down Excalibur. Like it comes with a message basically to the person who follows the original artist. Don't fuck this up, kid. Here's Dr. Teeth. And that's kind of like the mantra that you're faced with like, "Oh man, this is the this is the leader of Electric Mayhem."
Oh yeah. Well, I had a picture of him on my Trapper Keeper in elementary school. it was that was my character. I love that character. I love Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem. I've been fortunate enough to play him, a few times through the years, and also Floyd and Animal as well. So I've had a lucky career.
Yeah, man, that's an all-star lineup. I mean, Animal was everybody's favorite. I mean, even I had an Animal when I was a kid.
Right, right, yeah. I wanted one. I only had one choice. I only had $50 in the bank that I could spend on anything, and so I got a Miss Piggy. But
You know,
because I thought that was a cool latex character, that was really fun.
you get to play with the real animal. You
Yeah,
don't need.
yeah.
All right, so you know,
Sometimes I do fill in on those things, but at this time I don't play any of those now. But there's been a lot of auditions, and I was just filling in at the time. I don't think I ever was officially any of those characters. It really was. I think when Jim Henson passed away, everybody pitched in and tried, their best to keep the legacy alive, and I was just glad to do that. And I never wanted any credit for any of it. I was just living my dream, to even get to be around them. So, you know,
this isn't about credit, and you're a modest artist, so we're not gonna. With it's you're not taking any sort of liberties with your Muppet history, but it is cool that you get an opportunity to be a ringer and play all these different characters. And it's funny because when I was at Warner Brothers in feature development, whenever we got a bad script, I always used to joke and say the only thing that'll save this is if it's made entirely with puppets. And I would say that about the Exorcist prequel, that Morgan Creek, it should be all puppets. It'll
oh,
save.
I agree.
Puppets were my solution to everything. When they were talking about an Exorcist reboot, let's do a puppet version of it. But so I'm a big fan of the art that goes into it. And I saw that documentary on the actor Carol who played Big Bird.
Yeah.
And that was the first sort of behind the scenes look for me into the work that went into the magic of Sesame Street and how intense, labor intensive it was. How he was almost killed on the space shuttle explosion, but couldn't make the trip at the last minute because it was too much weight with the suit. But I saw that and the inside look at just the impact Sesame Street had on an entire, well, not just one generation, but several generations now, and how you guys are like entertainment commandos. Like you guys jump in there and you're on your back and you're climbing through this and you got, you know,
Yeah, there was just I'm not sure what we were shooting. It might have been a special recently, and I was doing Big Bird's right hand or right wing, and Matt had said, "Hey, I need you to do this really hard thing. I need you to do the wing, and then you need to drop out of the shot when it cuts to a close up of the child in the scene, and then we're going to cut to a wide shot." And he's directing, I think, while he's inside a Big Bird.
wow.
But he's so that's what I had to do. And in order to get out of the shot, I had to grab the wing off my hand and do a dive roll out of the shot to get out of there. And that's something I learned, in high school. You do stage combat and stuff. So I love doing all that crazy kind of stuff, hanging on ladders and up in the rafters and doing a marionette or throwing. I love throwing puppets because I'm from Indiana. We had a basketball goal out in our backyard. I would always be shooting hoops. So I when I found out that I could throw puppets and that was kind of like a thing, I wanted to be the best at it. So, I immediately would set up baskets around the room and throw like beanbag animals around.
Nice.
I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit that because that's what you need when you're in the scene. You have to do something. And if you can do it in one take, everybody's happy to go home, that little bit early.
You ever walk around the workshop and see like Snuffleupagus or Guy Smiley and be like, man, this is for real. That little puppeteering gig in Indiana has brought me to this point.
Yeah, it's a pinchable kind of job. You see, all your childhood wishes coming true in this job. So it's I feel really lucky to have done everything that I have done, and I feel lucky to still be working it. And a bunch of us do that. Like every time Sesame Street starts back up, we gather around for the first shot. And I remember this last season, a few of us were like, I can't believe we're still here. This is still a dream come true. Just
Right.
look around and take it in. We are still here. This is amazing.
Now, answer a couple of questions for me. It's been a while since I've seen Sesame Street, but did anyone ever see, and was anyone ever able to identify on the street Snuffleupagus? Because for a long time, it was an imaginary character, right? Like, people saw it, Big Bird saw it, right? And no one else had witnessed the Snuffleupagus.
No, I had anxiety about it myself when I was little. I'm like, he's right there. He's right. Oh, you missed him. Oh, But at some point they had to address that, and I think it was a big episode where Snuffleupagus is real, and they all believe Big Bird now. Because I think there was a thing about not believing Big Bird.
Was it causing stress on the audience, do you think?
I think so. I know it did to me. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's your favorite character? I love the fact that one of them lives in a trash can. I've always loved that.
oh, Oscar, yeah.
You ever had a chance to puppet Oscar?
Oh yeah, all the time. There's sometimes the main puppeteers can't be there, or there was a point when Carol had done Carol Spinney, of course, he originated the character, and Eric Jacobson does a great job with it now. But I think Eric was working somewhere, and I think it became a point where Carol was needed someone to perform it. He was doing the voice, and so he laid down all of the vocals of the whole scene about Oscar. It was like, I think it was 2 episodes where it was mainly Oscar. And he did all the lines, and I learned them, and then I did it live, and then he looped it over me afterwards. So I performed it as Muppets do, because you're in the moment. You do need to play around with the timing and stuff, since it's very physical, to get characters in and out and whatever needs to happen. It can't lock exactly to a pre-recorded tape. But I got it as close as I could, and I think he was happy with it. That's what you hope. You just cross your fingers. You go for it and wait to see what happens. But I think he did. He said good job after his. Or sometimes you don't get that, but
Kennedy, you're living the dream, buddy. You are living the dream.
Muppets from Space. I did Fozzie Bear all through the movie. And I never spoke to Frank Oz before or after. But I figured that was a good thing. And while we were doing it, the guys, Dave and Steve, they came to me and said, we think you're doing a good job. And I said, oh, wow, I appreciate that. And, if there was, if you see anything that you think I should do, and they said, oh, no. In fact, we don't want to tell you what to do, because as it was through, the Muppet Show and all the other movies, if anybody gave Frank a note like, well, why don't you do it this way? He would say, oh, Fozzie would never do that. So they said, you should just do it on your own, figure out some stuff, because whatever we say will be wrong.
Right. Who's your favorite guest star that showed up for Sesame Street?
Oh, gosh. Robin Williams was great. You know, he did a scene with the two-headed monster, and I got to do the hand with that. You know, and one of the right hand of the left-headed head of the monster.
Right.
And it was just fun. He just did a bunch of gibberish along with them, and I've worked with him a few times. There was a movie called Old Dogs,
Yeah.
that he was in, and I was in a costume character for a big scene with all these costume characters dancing on a stage, and he was there in the scene, and he was so nice. He came over to me, and he never saw my face. He just saw the character and saw that, you know, I had this fan that I needed to breathe in between each take. We were there for hours, but he just kept coming over to me and giving me, you know, encouragement and saying, "I know it's hot in there, man." You know, he was so super sweet. But he was on, you know. I noticed that he was, whenever he worked on anything that I saw him work on, he was just on all the time. He never stopped or shut down and went, "Okay, now I'm going to take a break." He was just always cutting jokes, you know.
Who are some of the others that showed up as guest stars that surprised you on the set, being down to earth?
See, no, it's so many. um, Trying to think. Just everybody's so nice when they get there. It's, you know, because just like me, you know, they're in awe of being there as well. You know, so you never catch anybody, you know, not in a good mood. And so, like Garth Brooks, super sweet guy, would said hi to everybody while we're working. You know, you just feel like you know him after you've done the show. The band Train was there, and they were super great. They invited us to go see one of their shows, you know, after were done with that, and because I got to play, well, because well, at the time, you know, Jerry Nelson had passed away, so Matt Vogel was performing The Count, and we did a song with Train and The Count. And so Matt said, "Well, will you fill in for me?" You know, and this is last minute. It's not like I got like even a day to hear the song. I mean, it was like, you're going to do this, and we're rolling now. He, that's what it was like even on Muppets from Space when I did Fozzie Bear for that. Just filled in for Frank Oz, and he gets credit. And you know, of course, it's his character, and Eric Jacobson's now. But at that time, it was just he wasn't available or wasn't there to be there, so I just got to do it, and I didn't know I was going to do it until we're about to roll. I mean, they just say, "Oh, you do it," and then I just did it through the movie, and that was, you know, a blast. You couldn't ask for more than that. But as far as Sesame Street, yeah, I remember just so many celebrities that are just all super nice.
Have you ever seen anyone on the street after their Sesame Street appearance and like gone up and introduced them and they've been like totally confused and you've been like, "No, I'm the two-headed monster," or I'm Oscar the Grouch.
I just don't do that anymore. I just know that they don't really remember me, and it was fun while it lasted. And you know, I don't want to bother anybody or you know, have them think, "Oh, that's a weirdo," you know. I don't remember you, and I just remember it as it was, and I just go about my life.
What's the best puppeteering experience from your career for you?
Well, probably the first thing I did, meeting Jim Henson, and he let me do Dr. Teeth in this ice cream cart. And I just remember him, you know, telling me how to do it, and I got to ask him some questions, and he had a lot on his mind. He was thinking about Disney, and you know, there's a whole bunch of contractual things going on. I found out later, but he seemed very preoccupied.
Right.
At one time, I had walked up to him and said, "Anything you need, Mr. Henson, I'm here to help." And he didn't even look at me. He just went, "Uh-huh," and he walked off. I've told that to people, and they said, "Yep, that's Jim."
Did you go to his funeral? Did you go to Henson's funeral?
I didn't, because I had just met him, and um, I was working at Disney. I couldn't leave. You know, I had signed a contract
Right.
for a year to work at Disney.
Because it's on YouTube. The reason I pointed out is it's probably one of the most beautiful funerals I've ever seen.
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
Uh,
on video. But yeah, I wasn't able to go. And the other producers and people that had worked, uh, on at Disney that knew him got to go, or some of them did anyway. But all of us that were in this show that we were doing, the Here Come the Muppet show, we were all. The day he died was the day he was supposed to approve our show. We were all ready to show him the show, and he was supposed to say, that's it, or what, work on this, or whatever it was going to be. So we were excited to see him that day, and I had done that um, commercial with him for the show that I was in, um, and I'd sent a tape, so I didn't know what he thought of my work at all. I knew that, I'd gotten a letter that was dated, 2 days before he passed away, that he had looked at my tape. So I was excited to see him that day, not only for the show, but I knew I'd be able to say hi to him and, what do you think of the tape? So it wasn't until like 7 years later that Jane Henson had told me, asked me, how did you come to work for the Muppets? And I said, well, actually, you hired me because I sent you a letter, and then oh yes, you were down at Disney World, weren't you? Oh yeah, yeah. And I said, oh, I remember asking Jim, what are you going to do down there? You don't have a lot of puppeteers in Orlando. What are you going to do? And she said, he told her, oh, we'll be all right. John Kennedy's down there. So at that moment, the sky opened up and just gave me the answer I'd been waiting for all that time.
Opera music, like,
exactly.
He's arrived.
Exactly. And it was weird. I felt like I was around him because we'd just gone to a christening at the cathedral where they had his funeral. So that's where we were coming from, when she asked me. So it was all very weird, but such a wonderful moment.
I love your story, John, because you're the kind of guy that, particularly when we were young, that I was rooting for. I always loved it when people's, passion for arts, even if it was a little left of the current trend, drove them to succeed. And you can't help, or at least I can't help, but root for those people to succeed. I love it when people are driven to their art to, just keep hammering, and then they ultimately make it home and make it a career. It's like, that's a win for all of us. I look at you and I'd be like, I wouldn't have cared at all about puppets, but watching you do it, I would have rooted for you. And it's so nice to see you have made this stellar career. You just, like, you're the guy everyone wants to see win. You know what I mean?
Thanks. Well, I feel like I have one, and I appreciate that. And I'm just lucky I still get to do it, so hoping things pick back up here again and we're all together soon.
It'll get back to it. Whatever cachet you've had or earned throughout a stellar career, you have now lost by being on Combat Radio today. So you're back to square one, brother. You're back to square one now.
No, it was great. It's so awesome to meet you, and I feel fortunate you'd even want to talk to me. So,
of course. In fact, I want to get you back for a part 2. 1 hour. You're a great conversationalist. We barely scratched the surface with your combat stories, and I'd like to do a further, more extensive conversation. Get into dinosaurs, maybe Muppet Treasure Island.
Sure, I got all these stories, weird things that happened to me. You wouldn't even believe it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell Stuart Pankin you said hello when I speak to him later today.
Yeah.
And on behalf of kids around the world who have found some sort of inspiration from Sesame Street or have felt like they've mattered through the magic you've brought to them, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.